I want to get some superstars up here so we can talk about a fledgling destination in a mature industry that's about to be turbocharged by, I don't know, a little international airport dropped in the middle. Could you please welcome on stage with me Scott Boys, the CEO of Trilogy Hotels, not only a panellist but one of our sponsors today, and I really appreciate it. Scotty, join us. Phillipa Harrison, the MD of Tourism Australia, the big dog running Australia's national message to the world. Karen Jones, the acting CEO of Destination New South Wales, who is in partnership running the state's tourism supply and marketing agency. And Adrian Williams, the boss of Accor in this part of the world, the country's biggest hotel chain. Not a bad group we've assembled. If you want to join me on stage. Hear, hear. As they do, shout out to Mark Webster, the boss of Inglis Riverside here, boss of Inglis, including Riverside. The bravery of Inglis to bring not only their thoroughbreds from Randwick to Warwick Farm, but to invest in this hotel, I think about to invest in another bit of accommodation on site. A classic case of leading the charge when the East went to the West, embodied in Inglis. And to you and Arthur and John Coates and the board, thanks for the confidence. I think one of the inaugural winner of our Project of the Year here. And overnight, if you've missed it, the Australian Turf Club has come out and offered the hopefully very successful bribe to all ATC members to vote on the Rose Hill plan, which is they're going to invest millions and millions of dollars in Warwick Farm and in Randwick to make sure the Golden Slipper stays in Western Sydney when hopefully Rose Hill becomes the new mini-city we can have. And that's due credit to the exciting future here in Liverpool, in Warwick Farm. Mark, thank you for your ongoing support and confidence in the sector. We've gone girl, girl, boy, boy. I know we've already done the divide over here, or government, private sector. It's an interesting seat selection, but I'll try and mix it up a bit. Scott, I put the hotel owner hat on, the putting the money down, whatever. Everyone keeps telling us there's not enough hotels in Western Sydney to meet the demand that'll come. That you'd probably say, sure, hotels are good, but it's the destination driver that you'll follow, right? A hotel's first strategy isn't necessarily the smartest way to manage the growth of this sector.
Thank you, Chris. Good to be here, and thank you to the Minister as well. I think that this government has backed tourism, and we're ready for that. And he does engage with the industry, and we're really proud to play our part in driving the economic growth of this state.
How many pubs you got across the west now?
Us, 4.
Nice.
So Trilogy, we're a third-party hotel manager. We operate hotels for hotel owners, and then typically we'll franchise a brand. A couple of things about the accommodation sector in New South Wales, and particularly Sydney. Sydney is 26,000 hotel rooms in the CBD of Sydney. It's typically been the hotel market of the region. On New Year's Eve this year, Sydney surpassed revenue per available room of $1,000. First time ever that's happened. The Sydney hotel market is strong. It operates at about 83% occupancy, 26,000 rooms. You can then come west of the Anzac Bridge. There's 8,500 rooms, of which a majority are in the mid-scale economy and motel sector. There's very few premium rooms, with a pipeline of about 2,000 rooms. Up to 5 million people landing in Western Sydney into a hotel market that's already 82% occupancy. We have a problem. We also have a massive opportunity. This is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity, this airport, and then the industry has an opportunity to maximise that, but the economics don't stack up. I'm on a table with hotel developers here today, and they've all got money to invest in Western Sydney, and they want to invest in Western Sydney. They're Western Sydney locals. But the economics of building a hotel today don't work. And it's not just planning, it's actually the cost of construction, the cost of finance, the cost of land, and then the actual trading performance of a hotel. So at the moment, to build a 150-room hotel in Western Sydney of about a 4.5-star quality, close to the airport and using the benefit of the airport, you need to be able to deliver that project at about $300,000 a key. At the moment, to do that, it's about $400,000. So we have a bit of a gap.
Like residential development, it's building costs are so high that and land costs are up.
That's right. That's without land. That's That's somebody owning a block of land and wanting to build a hotel. So I think the key for us all here is to build a demand matrix across the whole of the West, because it's not just about the airport. It's about other things. It's about building a tourism product that also talks to business events and stadia and leisure. And then how do you then drive that demand through hotels and through the economics of building a hotel to shorten that gap?
Karen, you've now been in the job a matter of weeks, so you'll be expert on everything in the role. How do you take that challenge on for an agency that's traditionally been a marketing one? And I know John's sick of me talking to him about making it more supply side focused. How do you meet that challenge to help developers and operators, be they attractions or accommodation? What's the role for a state agency to maybe pivot to some extent to even more so involving itself in aviation, supply, planning issues to get product to market? Rather than saying, where's your new ad campaign for Western Sydney? We'd rather say, how do we work through you to other government agencies with investment to make it just a little bit easier to get the attraction and accommodation stuff that we need?
Yeah, thank you for that. I think I really do appreciate you introducing the question that way, because Destination New South Wales government, there is only so much that we can do, and we are absolutely willing to engage with partners, engage with the sector, engage with industry around how you might leverage government to help amplify impact around delivery of hotel rooms, delivery of tourism product, delivery of operators. The actual proposition for Western Sydney from a tourism perspective is huge, particularly with the Western Sydney International Airport coming online. If I can just quote some statistics for Western Sydney. Look, the Western Sydney visitor economy currently contributes 5.3 billion of visitor expenditure on an annual basis. Now, you heard the Minister talk previously around our stretch target of 91 billion by 2035. That's across the whole state. But if you then actually factor in that Western Sydney at the moment is doing 5.3 billion, there's a huge growth opportunity there and a huge growth target that we need to meet as part of that. Currently, Western Sydney has 14.5 million visitors that come to it every year. 3.3 of those are domestic, 10.7 are day trips. So we need to think about how we can convert those day trippers into longer term stays, hotel rooms, product offering, things like food and beverage. We've talked about culinary tourism already here today. What are some of the things that will attract these people to come to Western Sydney and stay for longer? And only 600,000 currently come from international. So that figure is going to go well and truly north of that once the airport opens. But again, we want to capture those people and keep them in Western Sydney for as long as we can, rather than just have them do a day trip or go straight back into the CBD.
People, let's go global, because you're like the CIA, you're not allowed to operate within national borders, so your market is outside Australia. How does the opening of a new international airport combine with the data, the intel, the contacts you have in a global network? How does Western Sydney tap in? How do they come and knock on your door and say, how do we collectively, through Destination New South Wales, through councils, whatever? I don't think anyone's expecting you to take the Opera House off the brochure and the ad and suddenly plonk the powerhouse on overnight, right? There is going to be, I think this industry needs to understand there's icons we've built only 30 years building up, and we've got investment in them. It's how do we stretch that more? But have you thought about ways in which the multicultural nature of Australia, of Western Sydney, how do we all become ambassadors for you? How do we all become marketers for you? How do we all invite relatives and others into the region as we slowly ramp up to real global status?
So part of Destination New South Wales's remit is to obviously market Sydney. And yes, the icons play a role in that. I mean, we can't shy away from the fact of the value of the Opera House, the Harbour Bridge and Sydney Harbour. But on top of that, we've also got the Blue Mountains, which is an amazing attraction and something that, again, a lot of people have on their bucket list that they want to tick off. So we need to obviously leverage that icon in Western Sydney and help promote it. And again, look at what are some of the other attractions that we can market around it. The other thing I'll say is Destination New South Wales, we have a really strong brand and marketing campaign. You guys might not necessarily see it because you live in New South Wales, but we do spend a lot of time and commit a lot of money towards advertising Sydney and New South Wales to other states and internationally. And the more that we can leverage that brand, align yourselves towards that brand, consistency has a bigger impact and it's more memorable for people. So we can actually talk to you around our brand and how we can potentially align with your businesses around that.
Pip, Singapore Airlines is coming to Badgerys Creek early on, Qantas, though they said more focus on domestic, but eventually internationally. Does that open up some avenues for you to play globally?
Yeah, 100%. Thank you, Chris. And it's great to be here. And I guess I'll put a bit of an international lens on what Karen was just talking about. I think the opening of this airport can't be underestimated in terms of its importance, not just for Western Sydney, not just for Sydney, but also for Australia. I think we, as the Prime Minister just said, we're an island nation. Aviation is critical to us. So this development is significant, and you can be assured that Tourism Australia is going to take advantage of that. And I think, when it was first announced, our thinking was around fantastic, it's another gateway. There are some incredible tourism destinations in and around this airport and this region. But I think the challenge and the opportunity that I see, and it's been fantastic and illuminating being here this morning, is how do we move beyond seeing this airport as a gateway and making it a tourism destination in and of itself. And the role that Tourism Australia can play, apart from making sure that the world knows about this region, is we also do a lot of research around what drives consumers, why they come to Australia, both for leisure purposes but also for business events. And so we know what they're looking for, and I think that there is a real opportunity to develop some experiences. I think hotels are important, airports are important, but people come for what they're going to see and do when they're here, and I feel like there's a real opportunity around that. We did a whole body of research last year called The Future of Demand, and it was by international market, what consumers are looking for, what they like to do in conjunction with other activities. And it's a piece of free research that's sitting on our website. And I would encourage anyone who's interested in that space to have a look at that piece of research, because I think that is really the opportunity. How do we make this a destination in and of itself? And stop people from just using it as a gateway.
We've spoken about anniversaries today, but this year is 40 years since the first international tourist hopped off the plane after my old man, the now 93-year-old former Minister for Tourism, sent Paul Hogan, a famous Westie, the boy from Granville, the lifeguard from Granville Pool, went to the world to say, come to Australia, come and enjoy your holiday. I'm just saying, you've got Darcy, the Mayor of Campbelltown there. He could be our next ambassador. If we put Darcy on an ad to come to Campbelltown, Ned'll stand up and do Liverpool. Only in a half-joking sense, Hoag's worked because he gave this Westie invitation to the world to come and have a holiday. A very simple proposition. And I know sadly an industry spent the last 40 years trying to get the next ad that does it, and now it's not just an ad, now it's about hard work and product. But I think where we can help you, and an invitation to both of the marketing agencies, state and federal, it's on us to help them. It's not just them sitting doing it for us. How do you bang down their door, offer great product, find out how are we going to entertain tourists who get off the plane at Badgerys at 6 a.m. and can't get into a pub at Parramatta or Paddington until 2 p.m? A singular challenge to this sector. Take that up originally. What do we do with them? They used to go and stand on the beach and take photos of bikini-clad women in suits for back in the day. There has to be a more evolved product that Western Sydney can offer the tourist that lands at 6 a.m. at Nancy B. Walton Airport. It's just Badgerys Creek, guys, let's face it. It's going to be Badgerys Creek forever. I officially declare it. What do they do in the meantime? And that's on us. But to take up the offer these two agency bosses have made today. Adrian, cover your ears, but I'm in, half my life is in very southwest Sydney in the Southern Highlands, and there's a little cottage that might just have a little Airbnb thing attached to it as well. But I want to thank you for the support Accor's given. This property all through Parramatta, Olympic Park. You just won our award last year for Penrith for the investment at the Panthers in the convention centre and the thing. Accor's had a huge footprint across Western Sydney. You're an early adopter, and now the world's coming to you with airports and everything. Does that make you more interested for Accor to do more in this space, based on your international experience? Do the secondary parts of cities ever kick in strongly?
Well, firstly, we're in the era of the experience economy, and I must say, Brownie, I am having the experience of my life this morning, because not only did we hear the Prime Minister make sensible policy announcement, but we heard Minister Graham talk. I think he mentioned hotels 5 times, so I'm excited about that. And we're talking about hotels on the stage now, and there's one thing I love more than airports, which are pretty exciting places, and that's hotels. So thank you for the opportunity to talk about hotels. Hotels in this part of the world are important for us, no question. I guess my first real introduction to really understanding Western Sydney was actually with Mark Webb's Arthur Inglis and the visionary board of William Inglis. So it's appropriate that we're here. And that's, I think, a blueprint where you've got a company with vision that drives forward and pushes and then creates something that's amazing, that once it's built, everyone's going, yeah, well, of course we should have that, and we should do it again and again. Western Sydney is the place where we should be doing it again and again. We are, of course, a global operator. We are thinking about Western Sydney, and we're thinking about Western Sydney because of the opportunity that the airport brings. But Pip's 100% right. It is not about creating a gateway for us. A gateway is something that people open up and then go through somewhere else. We need a destination, and our thinking, working with developers, of which some are in the room here today, and certainly others are thinking about Western Sydney, is to create that destination. So we love the McAvoy plan, because I think that actually steps out what we need to do in creating a destination, in setting an ambitious vision, and hotels is very much a part of it. Private investment will follow, but working together on creating these amazing food destinations, more conference facilities. I acknowledge Powerhouse Museum, but I would love to see even more in the arts centre, arts area, because that's what creates a great destination.
Let me go to the board for the Slido, guys. The question I was going to ask you anyway, but for each of you, get the Imagineering for a moment, put the engineering aside. What's the one thing? It's an event, an attraction, a something. What's the game changer? If you assume we've already got the Powerhouse, which is marvellous, we're getting an airport as an enabler, what are the things that's going to drive? Is it a big event? Is it a ski resort at Penrith? Is it a sound shell at Liverpool? What are the things in your mind? You don't have to live them, you don't have to pay for them, it's just imaginary, you won't be held accountable for them. If we all think it's about destination building, what are the gaps? What are the things we do to make Western Sydney a sexy destination?
I was really delighted to see your Best of the West food guide, because when I was thinking about that question when we talked about it yesterday, it really is, for me, around food, and specifically how this region owns their own food story, because there's a few drivers that people travel for. They travel for nature and wildlife, they travel for history and heritage, and they travel for food and wine. And on our doorstep, we have a whole range of countries, and I'm talking specifically about Southeast Asia in this moment, that travel to Australia frequently. Most Singaporeans, 75%, have been here 4 or 5 times. They come for a restaurant opening. So for me, a big event around food, and specifically what makes this region different, I think that would be a multicultural food festival, would be amazing. And there's a lot of them. So my challenge would be pull them together and let's make some international noise about that. Just
note to the dialogue team, the head of Tourism Australia just backed in my Spice Festival concept. Just mark that down. Adrian, your go.
I'll back in your spice thing as well. I'll back in food festivals. I mean, there's a number of reasons, and I'll add to reasons why people travel. Business. Ken's got that covered, so thank you for that. We need multi-layered industry. That's super important. And from a hotel perspective, you need more than just a one-off event. You need layered segments. I would love to challenge. You said I'm not paying for it, so
Yep.
if I,
Or am I? So go
I'd
for it.
love to say, let's take the Powerhouse Museum, but let's go even further. Let's get the Guggenheim of the West, the Mona of Greater Western Sydney. That's what we need here.
Perfect. Stuart Ayres, our former minister, famously got very close to Crazy Brave idea to put the Grand Prix at Penrith Lakes. Great idea, as a combination of City West. It's that sort of big thinking. So the Mona's coming. Karen, you might have to pay for some of it, but Karen with a background at Sport New South Wales before Tourism New South Wales. So what do you think, Karen? Is it an event? Is it a restaurant? Is it a museum? What?
It's a combination of everything, because people, whilst big events do draw in tourists, the value that you get out of a big event is hosting those in what would typically be a quieter period of the year. All the other times of the year, you're hoping that you've got enough experiences while the weather is warm or while people are on school holidays or whatever, that they can actually come and fill up their time even if there isn't a major event on. So I think it is a combination. Yes, major events do absolutely play a role, but, and you're bang on, Adrian, around having an experience tourism slant to everything that we have on offer. So experiencing food, experiencing nature, experiencing culture, the arts, our Indigenous cultures as well. So having all of those offerings available in Western Sydney with an event being the icing on the cake, it means that you've really hit the sweet spot.
Scott, I had a bit of the Sydney water before I choked myself to death. We mightn't have the harbour and the beaches, and let me tell you, they're pretty tough competition, Bondi and Balmoral. Can the West really offer itself a big product for a country that marks itself as an island surrounded by water without doing something about the water in Western Sydney, promoting our rivers, our Penrith Lakes? Do we need to get a little, our new surf park at Olympic Park, which you were closely aligned with before, is that part of our offering?
Oh, it's so awesome to see people with surfboards checking into the hotels at Olympic Park. That's incredible. That is success. I'm a Westie. I get the metro every day, and I look at what the metro has done to North Sydney as a hotel market. I'm a hotelier as well, and what the metro has done for North Sydney hotel market is quite incredible. I would love to see Disneyland at St Mary's, and I'd love to see the Sphere at Liverpool. You think about what people say when they travel the world and where they go, and if we could create some of these iconic infrastructure projects, combination of everyone in this room and Winter Sports World as well. They've done so much heavy lifting, and so is Urban Surf with their concept at Olympic Park. We need 4 or 5 of those things that people will travel the world to come and do, and there's no reason why it can't be in the West. We've lived with an inferiority complex forever, and I think we've got to park that now. It's just part of Sydney, and the harbour is an option. The Blue Mountains, Lura is 58 minutes from our new airport, 58 minutes. So the harbour, Blue Mountains, great tourism product across the spectrum. We've also got the advantage of it being greenfield, really. We could do this from the bottom up and develop a really amazing precinct of tourism product that provides a multifaceted experience for people to come to this great state.
Pip, one of the questions, I won't ask you to comment on federal government policy, be a career-limiting move, but foreign students has been an issue. The reality is we still have a plethora. Western Sydney is full of foreign students and they're visiting. I'm sure it's one of the reasons driving Singapore, the amount of student market. Is there a way we can, I think back to the earlier question, can we tap into the people of Western Sydney, whether they're here temporarily or permanently? How do you empower them as a national marketing agency to give them the resources to invite their parents down, their friends and relatives down, their co-workers for conferences down? How do we get 4 million people in Western Sydney unofficially on your payroll?
Well, the way you do that is you make sure they have an incredible time while they're here. And that's what we do really well. So we know that when people come to Australia, their perception of everything is improved, so not including value for money. So we're perceived as a really expensive destination, but value for money goes up once people have been here and they've seen the quality of our experiences. So with those 4 million little ambassadors running around here, I would say make sure that you show the warm and welcoming nature of Australia, and they will come back. But international students are an incredibly important part of the mix. We know that their family come and visit them two to three times a year, so they're a really important part of the mix, and they get caught up in our destination marketing efforts. The other thing that I wanted to talk about is business events. You know, business events is incredibly important. It's largely domestic, so $17 billion it's worth domestically, but it's also worth $4.3 billion from international visitation.
And it's bouncing back after COVID. Now, it was whacked by COVID, but people are coming back.
So spend is back. Numbers are lagging, but spend is back. They're incredibly high-yielding travellers. So attracting them for business events is really important for the here and now and the economic impact of now. But there's a whole legacy piece. They'll come back for leisure, but there's also a legacy piece in terms of the industries that they're promoting. There's been a lot of talk about how we want to build the industry around Western Sydney. Having associations and business events here will certainly help with that.
It does make an argument to get on with the job and give the RAS at Olympic Park the convention and exhibition facility this city and this part of the city deserves. That you'll eventually have a metro that you can have your morning session at Piermont at ICC and your afternoon session at Rose Hill. You can at Olympic Park. You'll be able to literally stage a big event over two facilities. So we've got to get serious and finally deliver. And whether the airport has plans for a third facility further out, I know that's in the mix. Let's start with getting the one done at Olympic Park. And to your comment, let's not forget the great Hoax ad where he said, don't make a liar out of me. I've told the world to come here for a holiday. I don't need you to rent the back room out to a tourist, but I do want you to shine the pearly whites and say g'day. So we can all be great ambassadors for the product within. We're coming towards the end because I promised these guys lunch and they'll throw us out. The full link of the airport to an industry, and Ned went before about, you don't need to wear a backpack as a tourist because you might be changing trains a bit. We know that'll get better over the time. Just the actual link of having a new international airport, new international carriers in the region. To each of you, what does that mean? What's the potential of that? Is it the game changer we all hope, or are we going to kill it with expectation, or it truly is a game changer that we can really grab onto?
Everyone's looking at me. I think it's a game changer. I think for me, it's also about the connectivity. Sydney as a gateway has been limited by the curfew, and so the fact that airlines are going to now be able to plan for, the hub carriers are going to be able to plan for the flights into Australia to link into their flights to Europe, etc., and is going to be a really, really big opportunity for us. And the more connectivity we have, the more aviation we have, the better we're going to do as an industry, and that's not just tourism, that's for the economy.
Scott, do you think we're ready for it? Do you think Western Sydney realises what it's about to get? Is industry stepping up?
It's absolutely a game changer. These opportunities don't come around often, and
once in 100 years in our country. So.
Amazing, and it's a great time to be a hotelier, no doubt about that. I worry about the customer experience from day one. They're going to come out of that terminal, then what? And we have to do more to be ready for that.
Adrian, does it have to be an open skies airport? Should we not demand that the new airport be given the right to get all the flights it possibly can?
So a couple of comments. I come from a little town down south, and we don't often think of Western Sydney. And apologies, but it's just the fact. And if you doubt that, think about Melbourne. How often have you thought about Box Hill? How often have you thought about Warrandyte? I bet never. And when you're thinking of going to Melbourne, you're not thinking of those destinations. This is the game changer, because you've heard the Minister talking about a need of doubling hotel capacity in Western Sydney. You've got people in a room here talking about how we develop new industries, how we develop creating experiences and tourism product. That is absolutely fundamentally game changer. Now, to do that, you have to use the unique attributes that this new airport brings, open skies, curfew-free, 100% has to be locked in forever.
Karen, Avalon, Werribee got an airport 10, 15 years ago. Western Melbourne hasn't kicked on to be the new Paris of the South. What do you learn from, and it wasn't going on to be the biggest airport, it was always a secondary airport, but what do you learn from that as to how Western Sydney does it better than Western Melbourne has done it?
I think Western Sydney's got to embrace the challenge and embrace the opportunity. For us, it's really, again, reassuring to see everybody in this room today to engage in the conversation around what it is that we can all do collectively to make this airport a success. The Minister and the Prime Minister talked this morning around how this is just the start and what does actual future growth look like on the back of the airport. The airport is not the be-all and end-all, it is also what are the actions that we take that we can deliver on making the whole area a success. So from my end, I think it's, for us, government, we have a role to play, absolutely. We have some funding that we can put towards it today. There was the $8 million announced by the Minister. But on top of that, we need industry and the sector to also engage quite strongly in order to make not just the airport, but the whole of Western Sydney on the back of the airport a raging success.
I mean, Brownie, we really shouldn't take it for granted that we've got the national marketing body, we've got the state marketing body, we've got industry thought leaders talking about Western Sydney. That doesn't happen by accident.
Didn't happen back in the day.
As you say, 1 in 100 years. So it's exciting.
And Business Event Sydney here as well. So almost 3 levels of that within. Look, in closing, I've put a challenge out to the sector before that we all need to help ourselves. Councillor Green, the Liverpool City guys, Camden Council, Campbelltown Council that's here, all the councils can do something to help and will continue to bring industry together. These guys are a state agency, a federal agency, operators, and I think also, Simon, to you and your team at the airport, the industry needs a big brother, and it needs, as a fledgling sector, we need somewhere to corral all of that good intent, all of those big ideas. We'll play a role. 20 years at TTF and then 10 years at Western Sydney, my two worlds have just collided beautifully. I can think of nothing that interests me more, so I said, I'm doing this panel. But to try and make it all happen, we need local government and the airport, the two agencies all working together. Adam's announced today that we're going to keep fighting for things like open skies, like physical links, like activation funds. As Hogan says, see, the ad's working already, Adam. You got 8 million today. Click. We got effectively an open skies commitment from Albo. It's all happening. Come to Airport City. There's nothing else to solve. But I think, Simon, where the airport can play that big brother role to link us to Singapore Airlines and Qantas, to link us to all the other airlines you're going to get, I think we need somehow in the early stages to get that glue that gets us up and going, and then there'll be no stopping us. But it's a start, and we need to get cracking. The airport opens in 18 months' time, and that's a blink like that. So we need to get cracking. Thank you for your support for this section. Thank you to you guys for, as I said, there's never been a tourism panel in Western Sydney like this, by the way. This doesn't happen every day. I've been here for years, and this is probably the greatest thought leadership investment in that. But it's not just one-off, we've got to keep going. Please thank the panel for their contribution.